Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining me on this episode where I have the pleasure of interviewing Wynne Kelly Charles. Wynne is an incredible woman who lives her life grandly and has achieved so much despite having cerebral palsy. In this conversation, we discuss the challenges Wynne has had throughout her life, with herself, but also with the perception of others and how it has influenced her. I've met many people who do a lot less than Wynne, despite not having the limitations she does. And for this, I, and many others, consider her to be an inspiration. I told her before the interview that I would be very direct in my questions, and true to form, she replied just as directly and honestly. Don't forget to listen to the end. After the interview, I'll answer a question from the audience. This time, I'll answer a question about finances and debt. Wynne, how are you?
Good. Good.
Awesome.
So how are you?
I'm doing good, getting used to the lockdown.
Yeah, well, as you know, over here, it's Easter Sunday. This has been the
Yes.
weirdest Easter ever. This has been the weirdest Easter ever. I have a friend who told me this morning that after she met with me, she was going to play the Easter Bunny. And I'm like, well, good luck on that one. I said to him by text, I said, be careful because kids don't know social distancing. They just think Easter Bunny and hugs.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. You have to be, I don't know. With all the laws that there are right now with social distancing, they should be a little bit more careful, with all the holidays.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I know. I texted my girlfriend
Mhm.
because she sent me a video, and I said, be careful," because my big concern is kids Easter Bunny hugs, and
Yeah.
it's like,
W-
really? So many people.
Live and learn, I guess, one way or another. Some people just won't give that up at all.
No, no. I my stepmom, who is actually atheist, asked me, well, how do you feel about Easter? And I said I was raised Catholic, but at this point, I'll figure Easter Sunday out of myself because social distancing. You can't go out to lunch. You can't do anything. So
Yeah, well, you have to take the good where you can. That's the way I
yeah,
see it,
yes, exactly,
right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
for example, if up until now people didn't know how to enjoy cooking at home and having a meal with their
No,
family,
well,
now they can.
now they can. Now they can.
Exactly.
I love
So,
it.
actually, this brings up a question that I have for you, because this is something we've never spoken about. But do you do your own cooking and the cleaning and all of that?
I wish.
Okay.
I wish. I don't. I can't cook because of my cerebral palsy.
Right.
I wish. I love to eat, but I have other people do it for me, and
Okay.
that's always been my that's always been my thing ever since
Mm-hmm.
I can't cook. I'm surprised the amount of food that I love. I'm surprised I'm not as big as I am because I love food. I love other people's cooking, and
Yeah.
people know that. And I love watching people cook and talking to them as they cook. And no, food is one of my weaknesses because I can't cook for myself.
Okay. And so, this because I'm assuming that there are other things also like cleaning the house and things like that that you don't do for yourself. Am I right?
I I have help. I'm very I have aides that are
Mm-hmm.
my housekeepers that come in and help me in the morning and then they clean my house. I'm very blessed. I don't take that for granted in the least. and I've had that luxury since my mom, up until 2010 was my primary aide, and
Okay.
then she started handing her responsibilities off to my aides when I was 14 years old. So
Okay.
I always had help. I've always had the capacity of help in my house, but it wasn't until 14 years old that my mom gave up those capacities, even though she was around me and even though she was still my mom.
Right.
And so she, on and off, started giving up those capacities, although um, even when she got mightily sick, she tried to help me. And a lot of people don't know that when she was diagnosed with the slow leaking brain aneurysm, um, she automatically asked who's taking care of Win before naming
Wow.
the doctors in the room. And my dad, the same way, after his biopsy, he was so scared to go under knife for his biopsy that by the I was driving down when he was under the knife for his biopsy for unbeknownst to us lung cancer. But by the time I got down there, he was so emotional. He thought I was in a car accident, and that's how I learned I don't do well with anesthesia. It's in my it's literally in my genes because I don't do well. I wake up the last surgery and the last major surgery I had, I woke up saying, "What hospital is this? Why am I here?" And
Wow.
so I woke up and I don't do well. And my dad thought that I was in a car accident. My
Oh,
sister
okay.
literally, this is how freaked out he was. My sister literally had to hold me so I wouldn't fall over because he was holding me so tightly. And granted, the poor guy, he was on oxygen and yet holding me so tightly and wouldn't let go of me because
Wow.
he was so freaked out. One, he was alone. I can understand why. One, he was alone. Two, guys don't do well with surgery. And so guys in general don't do well with doctors and surgery. So two, he had been alone for with for no longer than that because he had been alone for a week in a hospital dealing with all these doctors and nurses. And so by the time I got down there, plus he had a biopsy, and so by the time I got to him, he was so freaked out that um, he just held me. And I'm like, dude, you gotta let me go so I could sit down and at least process it. And then one of his nurses in the hospital goes, "Who's Win?" And I'm like, "Me?" And she goes, "He was very concerned about you." I'm like, "Trust me, I know. I have, I have."
Well, if I'm not mistaken, he passed away a year ago, correct?
He passed away. Yes, it will be a year, May 19th.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I saw something on your Facebook about
Yes,
that,
it
and
will be a year.
I mean, I know that it wasn't easy for you,
No,
right?
no, that wasn't easy. And now looking back on it, I was closer to my dad than I was my mom, because my mom, bless her heart, she did the medical end with me and made me functioning. So
Yeah.
I was a daddy's girl. I I prefer daddy much more than mommy. But
Okay.
and so those who are listening to us, those who are daddy's girls will understand what I'm saying in a generalized sense. But watching him be one standing up 1 second and then deteriorating so quickly the next second was the toughest thing on me. And am I was trying to figure out over the past couple of days, because it's coming up on a year,
Yeah.
why is this so tough on me? Well, why? Well, it's because I had to watch him deteriorate partially at home. I wasn't able by the time by the I had to watch my mom deteriorate, but she was in a hospital deteriorating. He wasn't. He was in and out of the hospital and partially at home. And
Mm,
so yeah. So was that was tough on me. The
of
setup
course.
of a oxygen compressor, don't get me started on that. I can't even handle the tiny the portable oxygen compressor. I That just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and people that know me personally know why. Because my dad was on oxygen compressor for 9 days, so
Yeah.
I can't handle the sound.
I can
It's like
completely understand
nails
that.
on the chalkboard.
Uh, no, no, that's what I can completely understand. But so I mean, I've communicated with you via email also, right? And so I know you have, people helping you in your admin
Yeah,
things also, and not just at home.
yeah.
Um, but how about friends?
I am very lucky. I have friends all across this country. I am very blessed because this is my off-camera personality too. I this is I am an extrovert to the 10th degree, and so
Yes, I know.
um extrovert, and I speak my mind. So I sometimes get in trouble for speaking my mind, and
Hmm.
I have to be careful. But I am lucky enough that I make friends easily.
Okay.
I make friends easily. I can call basically anyone in the Aspen, Colorado area and say, look, I need help. They would be over here in 2 seconds. But I can also call people across the country and internationally and say the same thing, and they would try and help me to the best of their abilities.
Well, see, that shows a lot about who you are as a person. But so, these are friends that you've had for a while already, and people that you've known for a while already. How about people who meet you that just meet you now, and what they see as a human who may be charming but has a disability, which has many people feeling uncomfortable. Because let's be honest. For sure, for sure, as much as you may have some incredible friends, you've met one or two people who also looked at you and immediately said, "Oi," and stepped away, right? Just
Yeah,
because they were afraid
yeah.
for whatever reason.
No, it's fear of the unknown, and I've accepted that. I've so accepted that, and that's my mission. Why I'm teaching people about CP, why I'm banging the drum so hard about CP, is to get the stigma and fear pushed out of the way.
So you're studying, right? And you've just decided also how you're going to continue.
I am studying. I'm in the process of getting my journalism degree. After that, I am going into possibly psychology school because I feel like the disabled need help, and I've learned over the years, unless you work with the disabled as a psychologist, you don't know how to work with a person with a physical disability until you have practice. So a normal psychologist, and yes, I am going to see a psychologist, not because it's because of grief situations. It's not because of what's going on.
Oh, wait, there's no need to explain. I have a therapist that I have for years, and she's
Yeah,
been with me even through my
yeah,
travels. I still keep in touch with her.
yeah.
You know, we're
Yeah.
humans. It's okay.
Well, humans. So that's why I'm considering going back to psychology school because after my journalism degree, because I feel like person with a disability should be able to work with the disabled and understand them because disabilities are very complex.
Do you ever feel the need to do more than a regular person? And apologies for using the word regular, but let's say a non-disabled person, just to prove that you can?
I do. I do all the time. Those who truly know me
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm going back to journalism school.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are seeing me on Facebook, they're like, wow, when's going back to journalism school? And I'm like, don't mess with this journalism. And yeah, and those who come on my podcast, I make them listen to the podcast, just get a flow of what's going on. And then those who actually know me know that I am a loudmouth and I speak my mind and I have no filter. I have.
So about that, about that, I have to say something which I really appreciate about you. Um, I commented on a question that you had on Facebook, right, about whether you should do one thing or another after you finish journalism
Yeah,
school.
yeah,
And I wrote you what I think you should do, right?
yeah.
Now,
I know you
most people, right? I mean, yeah. So most people, what they would do is, if someone comments, oh, I think you should do, option B, right? They were like, okay, what did you do? You say, okay, why?
why? Why?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
It's like
know.
you're not just going to let me give you my opinion. You're going to want to know why I'm giving
I
you this
I
opinion,
know. I know that journalism. I know that journalism school is tough, but I know that psychology school will be even tougher, and people are going to be questioning me as way this way to Sunday about why I'm going back to psychology school, and what I've realized over the years is it's over a year actually, not over the years. It takes a really special person to work with a disabled person, and I think after I go after I finish with journalism school, it's gonna be April when I finish that. I think I'm applying for my master's in psychology in September of 2022, all depending on when I graduate journalism school. And then but I know that I can impact the world even more having a psychology degree behind me and actually using it. Telehealth, thank you very much. And because I know that a lot of disabled people out there are struggling, and I want to help them.
If you could tell one thing to people who are non-disabled, okay, what would it be regarding disabled people? What would it be?
Ask what their disability is. Ask. I had, well, I have a friend who works with me,
Mm,
and we went, she worked with me, um, she worked with me before my dad passed, and then works with me um, after my dad passed. She was actually here the day my dad passed, and we went to the we went to the grocery store, and when she saw adults staring at me, and I am 10 feet away from her. This was before the coronavirus too. And I am 10 feet
yeah.
away from her. She when we get back in the car, she goes, "Really? Really? Did I just have to experience what I experienced of adults staring at you?" And she will just, it's amazing to see what people will do once they get to know me. Once they get to know me, the boxing gloves will come out, and it's like, no, you don't mess with Win. You leave Win alone. You leave Win alone enough so that Win can help herself, and then no, but but
So
my friend
yeah.
was shocked that adults will still stare at me, and it's like, oh yes, they will.
Well, so here's my question to you, though. Do you feel, because you're giving some examples of people protecting you, and that's incredible. Do you feel the need to be protected, or do you feel that you can be completely independent without their help, and you simply appreciate their help?
I I am getting to the point
Mm,
where I appreciate help. I
mm.
know that I can ask for help, but other than that, I am um, p- pretty independent. I can ask for help, but I like my independence.
Okay, okay. Uh, there's something you said. Two things actually. They said in the beginning, right, which I really want to tell you that I appreciate. You were saying, that you have the luxury of having help, right? People who care for you, right? Who are able to help you at home, to cook and clean and all that.
Yep.
And so you used the term luxury, okay? And you also used the term privilege. And the reason I appreciate it so much is because many people, we get so used to what we have, right? Whether we have a lot or we have little. And I don't mean just physically, I mean even emotionally. As humans, we get used to what we have. And seeing you being able to appreciate what you've always had, and to appreciate as a privilege and a luxury, I think that that comes from the fact that, on the other hand, you're dealing with the hardship. Would you agree or would you disagree with that? Where
Yes,
does it come from?
I and me appreciating um, people, and I say thank you very, thank you 9 times out of 10. I say thank you for handing me a piece of soap. Practically, I mean, in the morning, in the morning, people know this. I get up at 6:30 a.m. and just so I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. This morning, I slept in late due to a small medical emergency, which which happened at 12 a.m. this morning my time, and which had something to do with CP, which we'll get into in a minute. And so I, when by the time 8 o'clock comes, or 7:30 comes, I am ready to face my age bright and bushy tail. And because I
Okay.
know I need 24-hour help, And so at the end of the day, I say, see you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great night. And then they come back to me and they really appreciate. All you have to do is say thank you to people.
Yeah, that's true. People are always, a lot more helpful, a lot more willing to help when they know that they're appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay. And are any of your friends also disabled, or only you?
I have my BFF, Danielle Coulter, happens to have CP as well. She's been my BFF for 20 some odd years now.
Wow.
And she and she and I met, and I told her the story, and this story is public. She and I met through a program called Challenge Aspen. So a nonprofit we both deal with. And at the time, this was in the 90s too, 95. And at the
Mhm.
time, I knew, by the age of 6, I knew something was wrong with me, but I didn't know what. And
Okay.
so when I walked into the first day of this disabled camp, play camp, I
Mhm.
noticed a, a young woman, and I noticed the color of a walker, and her walker at that time, and I was walking independently at that time, and so now I'm on the walker myself, but her walker was purple. So I, as the curious 6, yeah, no, 7-year-old, I go, Purple Walker, and that was what attracted me to her. And every time
Wow.
she hears this story, she starts laughing because I wasn't necessarily focused on the CP. I knew she
Yeah.
looked like me. I knew she was struggling like me, but I was focused on the color of the walker. And I'm like, Purple Walker. And then I realized, okay, she is me in a different version of me. And then by the end of that week, I realized she's me in a different version of me.
Well, so first of all, that's amazing that you've had such a long friendship. I mean, that, that's incredible. I'm gonna ask you one last question. Okay. Um, one of my personal pet peeves regarding, I think it's modern society, but it could have been forever. I don't know. People that feel like victims, whatever happens in their life, it's like, oh, I grew up with a hard childhood, or I grew up with no money, or the teachers are bad with me, or the government does this, or they do this, like people who find excuses always elsewhere instead of taking responsibility, people who always think that they've had, the worst hardships and the worst life and the worst experiences, etc., etc., etc. And even though on the one hand, I mean, you said yourself you were privileged, but on the other hand, I mean, you have a hell of a disability. Let's be, very honest about it. Does it ever bother you to hear people complain like that?
Oh, oh yes, oh yes. When people complain about what their circumstances are, it bothers me greatly.
Okay.
It bothers me greatly because people know this, when people complain about hangnail. When people complain, I have a bad back as well. I have a bad knee, a bad back, and everything else going. A bad skeleton. Let's just put it that way. My skeleton closet is public, and so I have a bad skeleton. So when people, able-bodied, complain about a bad back, It drives me crazy. It
Well, but
drives me nuts.
does it bother you because you have a harder disability than the person complaining, or does it bother you because ultimately, whatever problems we may have, we need to learn to deal with and to move on? Which is it?
And
There is no right answer, yeah? This
um,
is a legit, genuine question.
it bothers me because we need human society needs to deal with what they have been given. Now, granted, if your bad back is your disability, that doesn't
Mhm.
bother me in the least. If you are having a bad day because your back is sore from a car accident, and yes, I've been in a car accident too, and my bad back has never been the same since. But if you're just complaining for the sake of complaining to me, that
Yeah,
drives me insane.
fair enough. I can completely understand that. Um, by the way, are you generally in pain, or
No,
you're
no.
good, right?
I am on no medications for CP whatsoever. I take the multivitamin just
Right.
to make myself um, just to make myself healthy. But I'm on no medications whatsoever. I am not a sickly person whatsoever. I just have to be mindful of my own body when it comes to the outdoor.
Fair enough. Is there anything you want? Is there anywhere you want our listeners to go to find you? Where can they find you?
People can search Win WIN Charles CHARLS. People can Google me, and then they can find me on my website at askwin.webelize.com, and I'll send that to you. I'll put that in the show notes. I'll even Facebook Messenger you that, and
Perfect.
people can also find me on Facebook under the same Win WIN Charles. And yeah,
Awesome. Of course, we'll put all of those links in the show notes, so don't worry. And that's it. Again, thank you very much.
And for this week's question from the audience, I have a mountain of debt and I just do not know how to even start getting rid of it. Debt can seem like an insurmountable mountain that has no way of being tamed. And the longer it goes, the worse it gets due to high interest rates and bad financial habits, which have not yet been fixed. So let me start off by saying that just like dieting, unless you take care to unlearn the bad habits and learn good ones instead, you may be fixing the problem in the short term, but it will rear its ugly head again. Having said that, let's tackle the question of debt and how to deal with it. First of all, make a list of all the debt that you owe, including the amounts and the interest rates. Go over your budget and decide how much you can pay off each month, total amount. Take the one with the highest interest rate and put it aside. Pay the minimum payment on all of them, except on the one with the highest interest rate. Just the minimum, no more. Then use everything that is left to pay off the one with the highest interest rate. Do this every month until that one is completely paid off. Then, tackle the next one on the list with the highest interest rate. Go over the list regularly, since interest rates can change. In the beginning, a lot of the payments will be towards the interest rates, but as time goes on, as you get rid of the debt with the highest rates, more and more of your money will go towards paying off the actual debt, and you'll be getting rid of it faster. Thank you for listening to this interview with Win. All of the links mentioned in the show are in the show notes. Remember to subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you use to listen to podcasts, and if you haven't done so already, please leave us an honest review. Last but not least, go to our website and sign up for our newsletters, which come out twice a month, so you do not miss out on anything important.